الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا وسيدنا وحبيبنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما يا رب العالمين. اللهم أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وأرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. So I want to start off with you imagining a scenario. So I want you to think about, I want you to imagine that you go to a restaurant and you're there eating and you look across and you see a couple sitting at a table and they're sitting across from one another and they're dressed nice and it looks like it's a special occasion. Maybe it's an anniversary dinner or something like that. And as you look over, you notice that one of them takes their phone out and they start typing on their phone and start scrolling on their phone. And then the other person takes their phone out as well. And then for about 4 or 5 minutes, they're on their phone. And then the food comes and they put their phones down and they talk a little bit, maybe 30, 40 seconds. And then there's a little light on the phone and they pick their phone up again and they look at it. When you see something like this, what are you thinking? What's going through your mind about their relationship? Now, I don't want you to answer that. I just want you to hold on to that thought. I want to transition really quickly. As you hold on to that thought and keep that in the back of your mind, inshallah, I want to talk a little bit about our relationship with our phones, with social media, with these apps that we interact with all the time. And as a matter of fact, if you look up the numbers, and the numbers, every year I give a talk on social media, the numbers go higher and higher and higher. The last figure I looked up, the average person looks at their phone, they pick up their phone about 52 times a day. And that's the latest number. It might have gone up since this morning when I checked, right? It's always going up. But what happens when you try to not do that, right? So we have this constant interaction with our phone. But what happens when you hear a lecture, maybe after today's lecture, maybe, Allāh A'lam, we'll see. You say to yourself, I want to take a break from my phone. I want to put it down. I feel like I'm getting addicted. And there's a lot of problems that come with being on social media, being on these apps all the time. We're going to talk about some of those problems. But I want to put my phone down. I don't want to interact with it. Well, what happens? Well, in the first few hours, people tend to become very anxious. So they're filled with anxiety, and that's because there's a release of this stress hormone known as cortisol, where your body now is reacting to you not having access to the phone. And I'll tell you why. When we access our phones, when we get a notification like an Instagram notification, or even if it's a message, somebody messages us, there are neural pathways that are created in our brain. And what happens is every time we get a notification and we answer it, right? So my phone's sitting on the table or whatever, and it vibrates, buzzes, whatever. I pick it up, I look at the notification. We have these mini rewards that go off in our brain. It's the release of dopamine. And every time we do that, every time we pick up our phone, every time we look at that notification, every time we open up Instagram or TikTok or whatever app, or even WhatsApp, right? Some people think WhatsApp is not social media. I'm like, no. You are watching the same stuff. You're not watching TikTok videos on TikTok maybe, but you're watching TikTok videos because somebody forwarded you. You've seen that forwarded many times, yeah? That's a TikTok, probably the asl of that, it started as a TikTok video. And I know some people, like myself, I'm not on TikTok, but on Instagram, it's like the same video, right? Same video, we're all watching the same stuff. But every time that happens, there's a release of dopamine. And what that does is it signals to our brain that this is a pleasurable experience. It's not super pleasurable. It's like a mini reward, a tiny bit of reward. And so what happens to us is that we begin to associate picking up our phone with that reward. And we don't even realize this is happening until, not until, but we don't realize that it's happening. And so what happens is this is why we tend to pick up our phones so many times to just check it. And sometimes there's no reason to check our phones. Sometimes, and I'll give you a scenario, have you ever been on the phone and you've tried to check your phone? I don't know if it's ever happened to you, but you're talking on the phone and you're like, I don't know why, but I have the need to like see what's happening on Instagram, right? And sometimes maybe you'll put it on speakerphone and be like, this is a boring conversation. Let me just scroll through Instagram. I'll give you another scenario. Why is it that sometimes you're watching TV, right? This is like these programs are engineered to be as entertaining as possible. You have all these writers who wrote this and graphics and like the latest CGI and all this kind of stuff. It's been designed to like capture your attention, and you're watching this series, and during this series you pull out your phone and you're like, so what's happening on my phone? Have you ever tried to show someone something that you really like? You're like, there's this great movie, it's awesome, you need to check it out. And it's like a movie that maybe means a lot to you, or maybe it's a documentary, keep it halal inshallah. You're like, you gotta watch this documentary on Netflix, come check it out. And you're like really excited for this person to watch this documentary with you, and they sit next to you, and within 2 minutes, they take their phone out. And you're like, hey, what's the deal? They're like, no, I'm watching. And you're like, you're obviously not watching. Why does that happen? That happens once again because we're now craving those mini rewards. And that's why within hours we begin to feel that. What happens after 24 hours? So now let's say you've made it to the 24-hour mark. What happens is FOMO, the fear of missing out. And I know you may be aware, you may have heard that term before, FOMO, and oftentimes we hear this term as like a joke, right? Like, oh, I'm having FOMO about whatever. But in actuality, there are real things happening when we experience FOMO. So there's increased heart rate, increased blood pressure, there's an increase in our levels of anxiety. So after 24 hours, we begin to think to ourselves, it's been 24 hours. I wonder what's happening in the world. I wonder what's happening on that last image I posted, or that video that I posted, or that thing that I commented on. I wonder if somebody replied, whatever. I wonder what's happening in everyone else's life right now. I wonder what the latest is. And so that FOMO begins to set in. That, my brothers and sisters, is not an accident. That didn't just happen. Sometimes people think that these effects that happen when people leave social media, we weren't expecting it, and it just happened, and we're like, now we have to deal with all these consequences of social media. No. That, my brothers and sisters, is by design. So these tech companies, they know very much that that's what's going to happen to you if you try to quit. Because their currency, what they value, their commodity, I should say, is your attention. Right? You ever heard of the attention economy? The most valuable commodity right now is your attention. That's what they want. And you may have heard this before, but if you are not paying for a product, then who's the product? What's the product? You're the product. Once again, if you're not paying for the product, then you are the product. Why is it that Instagram is free, and TikTok's free, and Twitter's free, and Facebook is free? You think these companies are just giving things away out of the goodness of their heart? No. What they're getting is your attention. Day 3, what happens after 3 days of quitting your phone? Well, you're in a good place here. If you made it 3 days, alhamdulillah. What some people experience, and some of the studies that were done about what happens in this time when we've left our phones, some people experience what is called phantom phone. And you may have experienced it before as well, where you imagine your phone going off. Right? Like it's in your pocket and you're like, wait a minute, did I get it's happening. You're like, no, nobody messaged you. Or you imagine your phone vibrating. You're like, I think my phone's going off. And everyone else is like, no, nothing's happening. You're like, no, I'm sure I heard my phone. And sure enough, if you were to go pick up your phone, there would be nothing there. But there's positive that begins to happen at day 3 of quitting your phone and social media and all that kind of stuff. The positive that happens is that you begin to feel rewarded. I talked about those mini rewards. Well, we've left all of that, and now we begin to feel rewarded by actual, real relationships. So, that couple I spoke about in the very beginning, right? That was on their phone, and you're like, what's going on here? Are they having issues? Like, why won't they talk to one another? Right? If they're on an anniversary dinner, they're celebrating 5, 10, 15, 20, whatever years of their relationship, put the phone down and talk to one another, celebrate this moment, right? But it's hard. It's hard when we are constantly accessing our phone because we need those mini rewards. But at this point, if someone has made it to this point, as I said, 3 days have gone by, then we begin to value those real relationships. So when we sit down and have a conversation with a friend, we're actually valuing that conversation. If we're talking to our kids, and as a parent, I can relate to this very much. There's a difference between talking to your kids with the phone right there and the phone just not being in the picture, right? Sometimes as parents, and this is kind of, I know parents don't like to admit to this, but sometimes we spend time with our kids, right? And basically our kids talking, especially if you have like a toddler or whatever, you know that age, 3, 4 years old when they just started talking? It's that age where it's right when you're like, why don't you talk? Like, I can't wait till you start talking. And then they start talking, and then they won't stop talking, right? You're like, all you do is like, please give me a minute. So we're like, wow, I got a life hack. Just have your phone on you. So you can be entertained and you can listen to your child talk. Well, you know what? That's not a meaningful relationship. But at this point, if someone's made it to this point, they made it to that point where they're now valuing this relationship, that becomes now we begin to actually value this conversation that we are having, even with our spouses. And like I said, I want you to go back now and think about that couple that was there. And unfortunately, my brothers and sisters, sometimes that's us, and we don't realize it because we're in the moment, right? Sometimes we need to be taken out of it. And I'll give you another example of what that feels like. When you're taking a selfie, I'm not saying people here take selfies, but in case you do, I take selfies, right? When you take a selfie and there's nobody around, how does it feel? No problem, right? You're like, no, not a good angle, better lighting, oh, there you go. Up, down, higher. By the way, selfie trick right here, selfie hack. Never take a selfie from the bottom. It makes you look weird, right? Always put the phone, y'all know about this? Yeah? You gotta put the phone up. It's like a better, yeah. What's happening now, right? All this stuff we're doing, it's no problem. We feel fine until somebody walks into the room and you're trying to take a selfie. Or you're in public and you're at this nice location, you're a tourist, and there's nobody around. You're like, all right, you tell your wife or your husband or whatever, take a picture from here, from there. And no, actually, you know what? Move to the right, move to the left, do this, do that. Like all that kind of, no problem. Until some people walk in and you're like, okay, hold on. Like this is mad awkward, right? Not only that, what happens when you see somebody else doing that? You see somebody else taking those angles, right? Up, down, left, right. You're like, what's wrong with you, right? When we might have been doing the same thing ourselves. That is being outside of the moment versus being in the moment. Let's talk about 5 days. 5 days after quitting, what happens? Some amazing stuff begins to happen. And studies have shown that after 5 days of quitting our phones, right, our attention span begins to increase. We're able to focus on things for a longer period of time. In one particular study that was done on college students, they found that college students who actively use their phone, now these are not talking about high school students or little kids or whatever, college students who actively use their phone reported that they had trouble focusing on a particular topic or a subject for more than 65 seconds. Now, that should ring a bell for you, because how long are Instagram Reels? Does anybody know? 60 seconds to 90 seconds, right? How long are most TikToks? 1 minute, right? Because that's all the attention span we have. And the way TikTok and all these apps work is the person making this content is like, I gotta grab their attention in 60 seconds. And that's why I have a brother who helps me with my social media. And he came to me one day and he's like, you have all these talks online, ain't nobody watching them. I'm like, okay. He goes, you know what we got to do? We got to take clips out. And I'm like, yeah, but they're not going to get the whole experience. He goes, don't worry about it. All they need is those 60 seconds. And now the internet's flooded with 60-second clips of mine that get taken out of the context all the time. But that's all the attention that people have. But when we quit our phones, we're able to focus for longer periods of time. That's one of the benefits that happens. Let's talk about 1 week. Studies have shown that things like the quality of our sleep begins to go up. Right? And we still don't know why, but there are many theories about the phone and sleep and so on and so forth. That's why a lot of times people say, like, if you want to improve the quality of your sleep, like put the phone away, like don't look at the phone and so on and so forth. That's based off of actual studies that have been done that show, yeah, when you separate yourself from your phone, you're going to have a better sleep and better quality of sleep. 14 days. Let's talk about 14 days. This is an amazing place to be because you made it 2 weeks without your phone, amazing stuff begins to happen, because now they've found that when we start to look at mental health, that there is a significant difference that happens when a person is able to separate themselves for an extended period of time from their phones and from social media. According to one study, and this is kind of like on the negative side of it, but teens who spent 5 or more hours on their phones had about a 70% higher chance of having a risk factor for suicide, which is related to the increased instances of depression, right? According to the study, they found that if this is 5 hours or more, they said, well, the sweet spot seems to be about half an hour, that it doesn't seriously affect your mental health if you're only a person restricted to half an hour a day of how much time they're spending on their phone. And that's not even, my brothers and sisters, getting into the physical effect or our physical health, and how, I wish I had time to get into how social media and our phones affect our physical health as well. And honestly, this is one of those topics that I could speak about this all day, because all we've spoken about so far is the amount of time we are accessing our phone and what it does to us. The main takeaway that I want you to have for today, and I've tried to sugarcoat this over the years, and I've given many, many talks about social media. I teach a class in which we had a whole section on social media. But to be brutally honest with you and myself, there's really no clear way out of this other than literally putting the phone away. And I know that's unrealistic for the vast majority of people. Our whole lives are intertwined in our phones. We're attached to phones. We need our phones for everything that we do. And so the next best thing would be, maybe let's cut down. And that's why I usually say, especially times like Ramadan, when we begin to fast, we fast from other things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made halal for us. Maybe it's a time to fast from our phones, put our phones away for some time. Maybe set time limits for yourself and say, you know what, in my day, I'm going to make sure that my interaction with my phone only lasts half an hour. Right? And now we have apps, ironically, we have apps that can track the amount of time that we spend online, right? And all of that can help, but it's not a solution. My brothers and sisters, you have to understand our whole world, our culture, what we access, it's all tied into social media. And even the talk that I'm giving today, it's going to be on social media. And someone's going to come and say, you know what, isn't it good that I listen to something beneficial online? And absolutely. I've heard that argument, and there's really no fighting that argument. Someone says, I use social media to listen to lectures and talks and so on and so forth. That's great. But remember, once again, the attention economy. The goal of these apps is not that you spend less time on those apps. The goal of these apps is that you spend more time. So even in Islamic content, they're going to find a way for you to get sucked in. And that's why one of the things that's become really popular right now is people arguing and debating on Islamic matters online, or the call-out culture, where we call people out. This person said this. And that's why every day used to be a hyperbole maybe like a couple years ago, but it's not anymore. Every day there's a new scandal. Every day, even in the Muslim space, even in the Muslim lecture space, so-and-so said this, or so-and-so did this, and so on, and all that. Every day there's something new. And every day we get more and more sucked in. And the crazy thing here, my brothers and sisters, and the plot of the shaitan, really, to me, this seems like the plot of the shaitan, is that we are deceived into thinking that we're doing something which is good, because there's like an Islamic theme to it. Right? Because this person said something, they're an Islamic speaker that said something bad about Islam, or they had a wrong opinion on something. Let me see what they said. And let me see what other people are saying about what they said. And then let me see what other people are saying about the first people who said about the first people. Y'all seen reaction videos? They're getting out of hand, aren't they? My reaction to so-and-so. And then the next video is my reaction to the reaction of so-and-so. My reaction to the reaction of the reaction of the and there's no end to it, right? And once again, we look at those things, and like sometimes I look at these thumbnails, which thumbnails are getting out of hand too, right? Like the expressions get crazier and crazier. The arrows get bigger and wider and like, oh my God, look at this. I caught so-and-so, and sometimes it's ourselves. I did this, look at this, I'm putting it online. And they get crazier and crazier. And we look at that and we know, you know, I know, we all know it looks weird, right? It looks weird when we see that. But does that stop us from clicking on it? We're still gonna click on it though, right? All right? Someone said, oh my God, I caught this person doing this, but we're still gonna look at it. And that, once again, my brothers and sisters, is by design. So I think this is a pivotal moment, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. This is a pivotal moment for us as Muslims in the modern world that we are living in today, especially in the space of our spirituality, because our spirituality is being hijacked by social media and what's happening on social media. It's a really sad day if our relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has only become 60-second clips. It's a sad day. Then we watch a video about someone calling someone else out, calling someone names, calling someone bad things, and we think that is something good and something pious. Indeed, this is a victory for the shaitan. So this is the time, my brothers and sisters, to really take a step back. And I honestly feel, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best, that there is going to be a reaction to this at some point. And I think our souls recognize this. And this is why, to me, events like this, where people show up in person and we can have real conversations, are incredibly important, because it separates us from constantly being online, right? Where we are fed the things that we want, fed the things that we think we need. It's like an endless loop. We live in our own bubble. We live in our own sphere. We watch the same videos of the same thing, whatever ideas and opinions and beliefs we have constantly get more and more and more reinforced. And now we begin to feel like this is our world, but there is going to be a reaction to that. And I just hope that it is not before it is too late, right? So this is the time. And like I said, we're all in this together. Myself included. Just as we all need to take breaks and really ask ourselves, what is my relationship with my phone? And ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the strength to persevere through the challenges of the modern world. Allahumma ameen. هذا والله تعالى أعلم. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك وجزاكم الله خيرا والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.